Hey, what's up, you guys, and welcome back to the Televised podcast. My name is Anna, and today we're going to be talking about Batwoman Season 2, Episode 7, titled, It's Best You Stop Digging, and that definitely should be said with a very Sophia accent and energy, because they did, in fact, name drop the episode or the episode title in the episode, which is not something that normally happens, and I liked that about this episode. I'm like, oh shit, a little name drop for the episode title. So long time no see. Obviously, I didn't have an episode last week because Batwoman did not air last week, but within the last week, or the last 2 weeks, I guess, since we've talked, there has been a lot of interesting new developments and a lot of interesting things coming out about Supergirl and Batwoman and what's to come for the Arrowverse, and then also ultimately it brings me to a discussion of what's to come from me, what you can expect from me going forward. So starting it off, Supergirl is officially coming back March 30th. It will air on Tuesdays now instead of on Sundays because it is going to be replacing Superman and Lois's slot after The Flash because of a COVID complication that Superman and Lois had production-wise. They had to shut down production for multiple weeks, putting them quite far behind schedule. So they are going to be airing the first 6 episodes of Supergirl, and then they will go on a hiatus, Supergirl will, so it'll be kind of like, I don't know, maybe not necessarily a mid-season finale, because I think they're having a full 20 episodes this season, but it'll be like there'll be a pause so that Superman and Lois will continue to air, and then Supergirl will come back after their season is over, presumably sometime in the summer, maybe even in the fall. I don't know, but I'm excited because I have always liked that kind of like 1A, 1B, like 6A, 6B kind of situation. It's very reminiscent of Pretty Little Liars to me. They used to have a fall season and then a spring season, and I always enjoyed that personally, just because I liked that it kind of dragged the season out a lot more, and I'm not ready for Supergirl to end, so so as long as they can drag this last season of Supergirl out I am ready for it. But with that being said, obviously that kind of begs the question of what is going to happen for me and in covering what I'm going to be covering. So this is going to be my last Batwoman standalone episode. It depends on you know what though, because I'm getting myself and I'll get to this in a minute. I'm getting myself really excited for this next episode of Batwoman, especially after this one, which I really, really enjoyed. If the next episode is really, really, really good, then I'm gonna cover it no matter what. So next week, you'll either be getting a Dickinson Season 2 review from me or a Batwoman recap, and then I'll get to Dickinson hopefully soon. I unfortunately don't have a spring break this year. I was gonna take my spring break and do like a full Dickinson rewatch and then like have a really in-depth episode about it because I loved Dickinson Season 2 so much. But they moved my spring break, so I don't have a spring break. I have a break in May, which is so stupid. Anyway, I am just like busy with school right now though, but I promise I will get to Dickinson. I've heard people asking for a Dickinson review, and I know that by now it's going to be pretty late, but I do want to talk about it because I did really love this season, and I think it got a lot of shit that it didn't deserve. So I promise I'm eventually going to rewatch Dickinson and do an episode on it. I just haven't had the time to sit down and fully do the kind of rewatch that I want. So I apologize for that. I know that was something that I've been promising for a long time, but it's gonna come. I promise. I'm sorry. But yeah, so probably next week will ultimately be a Batwoman episode, just because, like I said, I'm getting really excited about this next episode. And so, but then every week after that, at least for the next 6 weeks after that, I will be covering Supergirl. So that means that my episode date is also going to change, because obviously if Supergirl is airing on Tuesday, I can't have an episode up for Wednesday. So I ran a poll on Twitter, and overwhelmingly everybody voted for Fridays. So I will be uploading, not next week, but the week after, I'll be uploading my Supergirl premiere review recap episode on Friday. Which is really convenient. It gives me some time to like rewatch the episode, think about things. I'm really excited. So excited to cover Supergirl. You have no idea, especially because some promo pictures came out today. I will, you know what, since I'm talking about them, I'll link them in the description of the podcast episode and in the YouTube video. I'll link the promo pictures that came out from the first episode. So it looks really good. I'm really excited. really excited about it. Yeah, there's also been a lot of Supergirl news, and I know that some people had asked if I would kind of put a warning before I talked about Supergirl stuff. So here it is. Here's your official warning. I'm gonna read out the first 6 episode titles for Supergirl. I'm really excited to see what these episodes kind of turn out to be like. Especially because, I mean, some of these titles are pretty interesting. And also some big like casting news that came out just yesterday was that they had cast a young Cat Grant to be in 2 episodes this season, which are going to be flashback episodes. One of them being directed by Kyler Lee, which is awesome, and obviously kind of makes sense that it's a flashback episode because when you're directing an episode, it's really hard to be in it all the time. So if they have young Alex, obviously it makes up for the lack of regular older Alex, you know what I mean, our Alex. But they have cast a young Cat Grant who is trying to like work her way out of Lois Lane's shadow or something, and she heads to Midvale to cover a story, and that's where she meets Kara Danvers, which is really reminiscent of the newest Supergirl Rebirth comic. I mean, it's not the newest, but the first Rebirth comic from the Rebirth run of Supergirl from like 2016, 2017, where Kara had met Cat Grant before at either college or high school or something. I can't remember, but it's a very reminiscent storyline, which is really interesting to me because there's a lot of theories going around kind of bubbling about any kind of Rebirth storyline, especially because, and that brings me into the episode titles, episode 601 is titled Rebirth. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they pulled on the Supergirl Rebirth run, because that, I personally thought that was a fantastic run. I actually talked about in my comic storylines that should be on Supergirl episode, her Rebirth run with the cyborg Superman was one of the comic storylines that I talked about, which is pretty sick if they end up doing that, because it was where her dad Jor-El is her dad Zor-El he turns himself into a cyborg basically to survive after like Krypton exploded, and he creates he recreates basically the entire Kryptonian population as cyborgs, and Supergirl has to like fight them. And so people have created a lot of theories that storyline is going to be in this next season of Supergirl, which would be really sick. Personally, I think that'd be really awesome. And I mean, like I said, it's titled Rebirth. And I mean, it wouldn't be that out of the ordinary, because also in later seasons of Arrow, specifically, I think season 6 maybe of Arrow, they did Oliver's Green Arrow Rebirth storyline, where they had like Emiko come in, and they had when he was in prison, and that happened, and like that was all from Rebirth. So I wouldn't be surprised if they were pulling from that run for Supergirl either. Episode 602 is titled A Few Good Women. Episode 603 is titled Phantoms of the Opera. Episode 604 is titled Lost Souls. Episode 605 is titled Prom Night, and episode 606 is titled Prom Again. Oh, and then also, I forgot, we got episode 7. So episode 7 is titled Fear Not, but it's spelled Knot. And obviously, for me, when I see Fear Not, I think about tying the knot, and so I hope that that is a Danson either engagement or wedding episode. I'd be down for both. I think my personal theory about anything that happens after 601 is that it's a big time jump, or at least like a year, because Kara's bangs have grown out from set pictures. There's no more bangs. So she's got to get rid of the bangs somehow. I mean, so I personally think there's gonna be a time jump in this season where we see either like Kara in a coma or something. Like, that's my running theory, but definitely something is going to happen to make time pass on the show a bit quicker, because that would make sense then for this Danson engagement or whatever. I mean, obviously it's kind of lazy because like, oh, we skipped and now here's their great relationship, they're engaged, whatever. Very lazy, but I have faith in Ozzy that she says that everything we want to happen for Danson and more is going to happen in this season, so I have full faith in her to watch what transpires. And then also talking about prom night and prom again, those are the episodes that are going to be flashback mid-veil episodes, as well as both of those are going to have Cat Grant appearances in them, young Cat Grant appearances. And I have a lot of theories about these episodes too, because Nicole Maines and Jessie Rath actually worked very closely with the actresses who play young Kara and young Alex. I have a feeling that Nia and Brainy are going to do some time travel and it's going to mess something up, so then they have to do prom again. I'm excited. I'm so thrilled about this season. I don't have a bad thought about it yet. I really don't. I'm so excited to talk about it. I hope you're all excited with me. I mean, I know this sounds cheesy, but this is like the last time that we get to talk about Supergirl. Like, I'm just so ready to be excited for it, and I'm not gonna let anything dampen my mood until I see something I don't like on screen. You know what I mean? So I would appreciate it if we kind of kept the negativity to a minimum about Supergirl, so far, at least until we see it, just because I'm so thrilled to talk about it. I'm so thrilled to have these characters back on my TV, especially so soon. And yeah, I'm just so excited about it. Yeah, so that's the end of Supergirl talk, I think, at this point. So like I said, I'll be uploading on Fridays. I just want to make sure that's super clear, just so nobody comes on a Wednesday and is like, shit, where's my podcast? Well, it'll be there on a Friday. Not next week, but the week after. Like I said, I will still be covering Batwoman, just not in their own standalone episodes. If I had the time, I would probably just do an episode for Batwoman and then do an episode for Supergirl, but I just don't have the time. I'm busy. I am in college, so I'm writing a lot of papers. So yeah, I'm busy doing that, but maybe once like school ends and if Batwoman and Supergirl end up like airing at the same time, I might do like full episodes for each of them. We'll see. I'm not making any promises. But yeah, so like I said, I will be rolling the Batwoman recap reviews, quick comments into my Supergirl episodes the same way that they were last season when I talked about Supergirl and Batwoman simultaneously. So there will be like a 15-minute segment at the beginning of each episode where I talk about Batwoman before I get to Supergirl. And I have heard the requests, and I promise I will remember to put timestamps on where my Batwoman recaps end and where my Supergirl discussion starts, because I don't want to spoil it for anyone, because I know that people have said that it's maybe not necessarily airing in the UK right now or whatever, or certain people can't watch it, whatever. I will be sure to make sure that I get timestamps on each of my episodes so that you don't have to worry about listening to Batwoman spoilers. And yeah, so sorry about this really long intro. I just wanted to update everybody on everything that's going on, especially because we didn't get to talk last week when there was a lot happening, but I'm glad that we're doing it now because there's so much news to kind of round up together, and I'm really thrilled. I hope you can tell that I'm just really excited to kind of jump back into Supergirl. And but yeah, anyway, let's get back to Batwoman. We're talking about, like I said, season 2, episode 7, It's Best You Stop Digging. At the beginning of the episode, Ryan is absolutely losing it. She sounds like she's in labor. She's screaming. And this kryptonite wound is literally disgusting. There's this one shot where Mary puts some I don't know, like a cloth with like alcohol on it onto the wound, and it's just gross. It was nasty. I'm like, oh my God, this is gnarly. And but then we see a shot where there's a single vein that turns green and the kryptonite goes straight to Ryan's brain. Oh my God. And we see that affect her throughout the entire episode, which is really interesting. And what's interesting about this episode is that it almost felt like Ryan's story was kind of like the B plot for this episode. It was really Sophia focused and was really Alice focused, which I appreciated because obviously I love Alice as a character. So yeah, but Ryan and her kryptonite was kind of like a secondary story, it felt like. Maybe that was just me feeling that way, I don't know. And I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm a Superman and Supergirl fan that this kryptonite logic just doesn't make sense, and I wish that somebody would explain it to me. I need to go hunting for like Caroline Drees interviews, and just see what she has to say about kryptonite, because it just doesn't make sense to me, but that's fine. So Jacob and Sophie have a name now for this bolo tie doctor. I can't be bothered to remember it, but they know that they have to get this map from him because obviously at the end of last episode, he nabbed the map from Sophie. And so Jacob keeps like going in on his dead wife for everything she did with Hamilton Dynamics, which, I mean, okay, fair. They were doing human trials and stuff, but like, come on, the woman's already dead. Like, Jesus Christ. Okay, so then we are with Alice, and she gives... So, okay, everything with Alice this episode is literally just exposition overload, but I'm gonna get through, I'm gonna push through it. I'm gonna try not to make it too boring, but Alice gives the fake ocean to Tatiana, but it was just a ruse so that she could kidnap Tatiana. And then she's like, oh, you little lesbian. I'm like, why is Alice homophobic now? Just call her a slur, Alice. Oh my God, if that's what you mean. It was just like said in such a mean way. I'm like, oh my God, homophobic Alice. But anyway, so Tatiana spills that Mary's mom, Catherine, actually had a deal with Sophia. So Hamilton Dynamics had made this deal with Sophia to make her an island defense system. But she ended up burning them some way. I don't think that they ever really mentioned how their falling out kind of happened, but she burned them with this deal. And Sophia then had a vendetta against Catherine and Hamilton, which made Alice a really appealing kidnappee because they shared a common enemy. And Alice kind of almost served as like a way in for her at first. And there's a lot of homoerotic tension between Sophia and Alice in all of these flashbacks. And so Sophia kind of Tatiana says that Sophia kind of sees herself almost as a prisoner of Coriana because she has to be stuck. She has to stay there. And we find out later why it's so imperative that she stays right there on Coriana. But she kind of, so Tatiana's like, look, she related to you in this way. She related to you because you were a prisoner and you escaped. Like, you were inspiring to her. Like, oh my God, you were just so intriguing. You escaped, you made it out, and you survived. And that was interesting to her because she feels like a prisoner and she feels like she can never escape. And then she actually says, quote, Sophia wanted your loyalty. And then she says, you wanted ocean. And when she says loyalty, it's like double entendre. Like, ooh, we know what you mean by loyalty. We know in which ways Sophia wanted Alice to be very loyal to her. But Alice, she was loyal to Ocean. So then we have this really concerning scene with Ryan, Luke, and Mary, where Mary tells Luke basically that Ryan's bone marrow is disintegrating. Her system is shutting down. But Ryan takes the damn Batmobile and kind of sneaks out right from Mary and Luke's nose, from under their noses. because they are talking about needing Jacob to bring the flower to Ryan. But Ryan is like, okay, well, I'm just going to leave. But also Luke expresses this concern, like, well, wait a damn minute. Like, if Jacob knows that he needs to bring this flower for Ryan, then he'll know that you're on the Bat team. And how do you think he's going to react to that after the clinic reveal of of a couple days ago or whatever? And I mean, he's got a point. So back with Tatiana and Alice, she tells Alice that her and Ocean were straight up enemies, which is it's a shock. It's a shock to Alice, you can tell, because she obviously was the one having these flashbacks of like steamy first glances and like makeouts on the beach and stuff like that. And so she's like, wait a damn minute, you mean that we were enemies to lovers' realness? But so she says the whole like enemies thing kind of helped them keep their affair undercover because they hated each other so much and no one suspected that they would ever have a thing. And eventually they like hate bone or whatever, and Ocean actually ends up kind of calling out Alice in one of these flashbacks, saying that she needs to learn how to feel rather than how to fight. And that her wishing that her family had been miserable for a decade while looking for her endlessly was kind of selfish, and that if she really cared about them as much as she says that she did, then why does she want them to suffer, still believing that she's alive? Which is something that actually the episode ends up circling back to later with Jacob. So back with Ryan, she does something absolutely crazy. She is swerving through Gotham, and then her mother shows up in the passenger seat of the Batmobile, and we get this flashback of them that starts out really cute. It's cute, like it's clearly like in that apartment that they got, obviously where we as the audience know that later her mother died in. And so her mom is talking shit about Angelique. She's like, listen, that girl is trouble, and she's only going to cause you trouble, and I need you to turn your life around. And Ryan's like, I know, but she's a good person, mama, all of that, but she's not having it. But then it kind of like turns into this really gruesome, grotesque vision, like really morbid vision of like blood all in her mom's hair where she was combing her hair, and it's like, oh my god. And so she's kind of just like stunned out of that, and she's still trying to drive the Batmobile, this tank, around Gotham, and she ends up actually making it to Angelique's place. And oh my god, we find out that Angelique is cheating on Ryan, even though, I mean, technically they did break up, but it's like, geez, girl, it's only been like a couple days. You move on so fast. Oh my god. And I mean, like I said, nobody's saying that Angelique is a good person or that she is whatever. I mean, like I said before, she is gonna be ultimately she's only going to help Ryan grow in the end once she kind of severs those ties. But oh my god, like, and she's even, the girl that she's hooking up with is even wearing that damn panda robe that Ryan wore from that first like morning after scene that we got of the two of them quite a few episodes ago. So it's like, it's ice cold. It's ice cold. So Batwoman is up on her like fire escape, and she's like, look, I need you to tell me where Ocean is, or I'm gonna punch you in the face, pretty much. Like, again, Ryan, you could tell that she's trying so hard, and I almost thought that she was gonna straight up reveal her identity in that moment. I was like, oh my god, is she just gonna like rip off the cowl and be like, you know who I am, and why are you sleeping with this other girl? Huh? But yeah, so she, like, Angelique is not nice to Batwoman. She gives her all kinds of hell, and then she kicks her off the balcony, and she lands on this, Ryan lands on this van or whatever. Looks like it hurts, and she's kind of like prone and passed out, and Luke and Mary get there like seconds before the police do, and there's like literally a helicopter shining down on them like with this big spotlight, and they're 2 seconds away from getting arrested. But they end up fighting over who gets to drive the Batmobile, and Mary ends up getting to drive the Batmobile, which is really funny and really is good. And Luke, they carry Batwoman into the back of this car that Luke ends up taking back to the Batcave. So while she's passed out, Ryan has this vision of Alice in her kryptonite brain where she's cornered by her and the Wonderland gang, and she's in that apartment, and she confronts her about killing her mom, and she tells her, like, you know her name, like, tell me her name, and Alice actually tells her name. And then she chokes Alice and stabs her to death in that kind of like mind palace kind of place. And Luke and Mary at that same time are doing everything they can to keep Ryan stable. And they keep squabbling, and it's really funny, but it's also kind of like a weird departure from that like romantic dynamic that they had going on at the end of season 1. I don't know if they just are gonna drop that storyline or if they're eventually gonna get back to it, but I definitely liked their dynamic in this episode. I thought it was fun that they were kind of like enjoying each other's presence a bit more. Like, I mean, they were going back and forth and they were fighting, but I guess it wasn't as bad. It wasn't as bad as it has been in the past, I guess, in the past couple of episodes. So it's definitely a bit of an improvement. But like I said, I'm a little bit peeved about this kind of drop of the romantic dynamic that they had. I don't know. I hope that we circle back to it. I liked them. I really did. So then, oh my god, back with Tatiana, and I literally screamed, guys. So she confirms that Sophia is/was in love with Alice. And I mean, Alice, I think, kind of like implied that in the second episode of this season, either the second or third episode of the season, the one where Alice and Sophie went to Coriana. That episode, she said, oh, it's because Sophia has a crush on you, like that's why she spared you. She did. I mean, it was kind of implicatory for this whole time that everybody was kind of like, yeah, Sophia was in love with Alice, but Tatiana straight up says it, and I'm like, oh shit. So Sophia tells in this admittedly beautiful little romantic scenario that she had set up. Like, Sophia fully believed this was a date, which this is so upsetting. It's so upsetting. So we see this flashback where Sophia tells Alice the story of the Desert Rose, and she says that the island was started by a group of women escaping their abusive husbands and they brought their children to this island, and they basically kind of became like Themyscira. I mean, they weren't Amazons by any means, but they like kind of created this like warrior tribe for themselves there. And eventually their husbands did end up like coming to get them, but they fought and they killed them and like fought on the beach and whatever. And in that spot, it's said that that is exactly where the Desert Rose blooms, because they believed that the like feminine essence of their blood created the healing powers of the Desert Rose. And so she actually cuts herself and puts her bloody finger into the flower pot that's like right in front of the table, right in front of Alice, and the flower literally blooms right in front of her eyes. And I'm going to talk about something really quick that happens a little later in the episode, but I just don't want to forget to mention it because this is so important. Later in the episode, Ocean, when he's talking to Alice, he reveals that he stole a couple of the Desert Rose flower buds, and he's like, I'm going to leave. You should come with me. Like, we should just leave together and start a little life together and be in love and whatever. And in that moment, it's clear that Ocean doesn't even know the full story of the Desert Rose. I mean, like, I feel like the show or this episode almost like skipped over that fact a little too quickly for my taste, because that shows the utter like trust and belief that Sophia has in Alice. Sorry, couldn't find that name. It shows though like exactly how much she trusted Alice, how much she was in love with Alice to share that with her, because he says, I will take this Desert Rose and I'll feed it my blood. But he clearly doesn't know that it takes apparently like woman's blood or whatever to like, it takes feminine essence, I don't know, to grow this flower. So his blood's not going to work. But he doesn't know that. But Alice in that moment later in the episode does know that because of this scene that we got. And we as the audience know that too. And that was just such a striking moment to me, because it's like, holy shit, you know, Sophia really was like head over heels for Alice, like thought that Alice could have been, you know, someone to like be with. And it's so depressing to think about, like, for both, I mean, for everyone involved in this love triangle, truly. So Tatiana says that basically that whole scene was a love confession. And Alice then kind of toys with Tatiana and asks if she was jealous of, you know, Sophia's feelings for Alice. She's like, oh, you're so jealous of me because Sophia was in love with me. And Tatiana then is like, I mean, duh, I'm in love with Sophia. Like, oh my God, who's not in love with Sophia? Like, but she says that she's like, listen, it doesn't matter to me. I just care if my queen is like happy or satisfied or whatever. But the minute that I could destroy you, I took it. So she kind of takes credit for exactly what happened to Alice and Ocean. So then actually we see a crow strike at the bolo tie doctor's office. Jacob tells Sophie about Mary's clinic, and Sophie actually defends Mary's clinic and basically says, yeah, I knew about it, and that was something good for her. And he's like, no. I do not need her to become her mother. And Sophie's like, look, you just need to call Mary. I know that you haven't talked to her since this happened, so you need to call her. And he's like, whatever. But then, so they enter a boardroom and they find the bolo tie doctor and all his colleagues dead, presumably from the desert rose like serum that they made, slaughtered by the many arms of death. So it looked like what happened was they took the many arms of death, took the fake serum that they had made, and in the boardroom there was actually a video that was playing of that guy that we saw from last week's episode dying during the experiment. It must have just been playing on a loop because it was still playing when they got there. So it looks like the many arms of death basically took their fake desert rose serum, fed it to all of them because there was the like blood bags all on the table, and killed them that way, which is crazy. Like, holy shit, if that does not send a message, I don't know what does. It's like, holy shit. Because at first I was like, oh my God, did they kill them like just like, you know, with some knives or whatever? But I'm like, they did this with some pizzazz. Like, this is crazy. So back at the Batcave, Mary is still taking care of Ryan, who has a horrible kryptonite hangover. And then Mary says that she shot a rocket launcher out of the Batmobile instead of using the windshield wipers. She's like, listen, those two buttons, very similar. They're very similar, and I can't be held responsible for my actions because no one labeled them. So Ryan says then to Mary, she gets very serious, and she's like, look, the last thing that I want to do before I die, because I'm dying, before I die is kill Alice. And Mary lets Sophie know that they need that map ASAP. And Jacob says, well, he finds the map. He finds the tube where the map used to be, and it was burned to ash. Sophia left a letter that said, it's best you stop digging. And now there's basically no hope for Jacob at the moment of finding Kate, and then also for Mary of saving Ryan, because they can't get to this damn rose. So anyway, back with Alice and Ocean, Alice is now telling alive Ocean, you know, not fake corpse Ocean, but alive Ocean, about the time Kate and Jacob found her in that house. This is actually a flashback. So, and how they left her behind. She holds that against Kate, that she couldn't feel her behind that door. And Ocean tells Alice that she's the only one who could fix her life and herself. This is the moment that I was talking about earlier when Ocean says he's going to run away with the Desert Rose, and he tells her that he wants them to run away together and to start over, and then they kiss, and I'm like, okay. But they reveal that Tatiana actually saw them making out, and it was the one who told Sophia, and probably ultimately saw that and probably heard the whole conversation. So she told Sophia everything, and that was enough to send her over the edge. But as she's like telling, Tatiana kind of like thinks that she has an edge over Alice on all of this. Like, she's like, yeah, you were in love, and then Sophia like made you kill him, ha 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 ha. But Alice is kind of like, listen, I found my mother's decapitated head in a freezer. Like, you're going to have to try better than that. And Tatiana's like, okay, hold my beer. But before we get to that, Mary says that she can't let Ryan kill Alice. But Ryan basically confronts her and kind of brings up the same argument that I was talking about last week, where she's like, look, how can we possibly, stand behind this symbol, the bat symbol, and claim that we fight for justice and peace and everything when we're letting Alice, a serial killer, like she says, a serial killer, run around and kill people. And Mary tells Ryan that the map is gone, and Ryan kind of is like, listen, Mary, Alice killed my mom, and Alice killed your mom. Let me go kill her. And she's like, okay, I mean, Mary just kind of like lets her go. She kind of can't argue with that logic because it's Ryan's dying wish, basically, to go take Alice's head off. And back with Tatiana, though, this is when it gets juicy, guys. This is insane. So Tatiana says that there's actually more to the story than Sophia just like getting jealous, and that there was more that Alice should know. So Sophia sends a hypnotist named Enigma to mess with Alice and Ocean's heads, and we find out, now this is crazy, that Alice's whole motivation and villain storyline is because Sophia planted it in her head. Everything about the Wonderland gang, about her plot against her family, her going full into the Alice book persona, was all because Sophia got somebody to hypnotize her and make her believe that that was all her. She sucked all of the humanity and love out of Alice and left her as this, like, I mean, Tatiana basically says she wanted you to become her, to become this queen, to become this like evil killing machine who just wants, who's just hell-bent on vengeance and hatred and doesn't care about love or anything like that. And that is crazy. I mean, oh my God, like thinking about everything that has happened in all of season 1, that was all because Sophia brainwashed Alice. Like, are you kidding me? And I mean, if that doesn't sound like the beginning, and I bookmarked this tweet, bookmark this tweet, that this is literally the beginning of Alice redemption. I mean, we see hints of Alice redemption towards later in this episode after we learn this, and after Alice learns this, but like, you can't deny that this has got to change something for Alice, and I'm really, really interested to see exactly what's going to happen with her, because, I mean, there are moments later in this episode where you can see her kind of wondering if these thoughts are her own or if they're Sophia's. And that is like scary, especially because if you've been in captivity for so long, she lived in captivity for 11 years. And basically, I mean, like she said, she immersed herself into the Alice in Wonderland book. She created this persona of Alice in order to cope with that trauma and with that tragedy that happened over the course of her young life. And for her to have made it to the island and had the capacity to love and the capacity for hope and happiness and love and desire for a better life in her heart that didn't focus on revenge or vengeance or getting back at anybody or killing or hurting people, for her to hear that those memories are all gone and that she has become this like killing machine and like robot and like criminal queen, all because some lady who was in love with her and got rejected decided to brainwash her. That is crazy. And you can see the impact that it has. It's almost like Alice was slapped in that moment. Rachel Scarston, I haven't said too much about her acting on my recaps lately, but she is just, I mean, she's in her best form on Batwoman. God, Alice is the best acting she's ever done. I swear to God, she's incredible. She sells the shit out of Alice, and she looked just utterly devastated. I mean, it was horrible. It was horrible. I'm like, oh my God. And Tatiana has this brilliant line that she says, "Shakespearean enough for you?" And Alice basically is like, she unties Tatiana and says, here's Ocean's body. And then she actually goes to talk to the actual Ocean, who's alive. So Ocean reveals that he's going off to some other place. He's gonna hop on a plane and he's gonna get he's gonna get out of here. He's gonna bounce because he doesn't want the many arms of death running after him, especially if Sophia does some kind of like DNA testing to find out if this is actually Ocean. He's not willing to wait around for her to find out. He's gonna get a head start. So this is so devastating too, because basically Alice almost asks if she can go with him. And he turns her down, and it's like you can see the devastation in her eyes, even though she's trying to play it casually. Alice, I mean. And it's like because now she's like questioning if she really wants this revenge on her sister that she's so wanting. She's just like, wants to kill Kate, and she's questioning now. She's like, well, wait, do I really want to kill Kate, or is this just Sophia poisoning my mind? And making her want this. But he ends up kind of walking out. But that was last week I talked about Alice reaching out for anybody to connect to and to have a hold on and to kind of find humanity within. And that was her reaching out, and Ocean didn't reach back, which was so sad. It was so devastating. So then we see Ryan found Ocean's lab, and she enters, and Alice is there alone. She just got rejected by Ocean, and she just found out all this stuff, and she literally was like, look, I've had a day. Can we do this in like 2 or 3 weeks? How does that sound? But Ryan doesn't have that kind of time. And she's like, do you know who I am? And she's like, yeah, Batwoman. And she's like, do you know who I am? And she rips off the cowl, and I was like, oh my god. Because, earlier in the episode, I kind of thought that she would reveal herself to Angelique. And so for her to actually do it with Alice, I was like, holy shit. Oh my god. And so they have this crazy fight, and Alice is so good at fighting because obviously now her fighting skills are kind of like contextualized, where we okay, she learned to fight from Ocean and from this Sophia kind of many arms of death warrior style fighting that totally makes sense now. Because, in season 1, people are like, how did she learn to fight like that? What? She was in captivity for 11 years. But now it totally makes sense, and she looks so kick-ass in all of these scenes. But Ryan obviously is at such a huge disadvantage because she is literally dying on the inside. Literally dying. And so she's definitely super vulnerable, obviously doesn't have the cowl on, and she basically kind of they go at it for a long time, but Ryan ultimately decides that, so Ryan's mom kind of comes into this vision in the drug place, Ocean's drug place, and she stops Ryan from killing Alice, and she's like, look, if I kill you, I'm gonna be just like you. And I don't want that. I don't want to be like you. I hate you. And Alice says one of the most devastating lines probably of this entire series, where she tells Ryan that it wasn't her fault. And Ryan replies, everything is your fault. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god, guys. Oh my god. That was, oh my god. That was so devastating. And the way that Rachel Skarsten delivered it, god damn, Rachel Skarsten is literally just a legend and an icon and a star. She's so good. And so then we actually end up cutting to Jacob, who says that the only thing worse than losing a daughter is waking up every morning with hope, and losing all of that hope and losing your daughter all over again by dinner. And so he says, basically, he's like, maybe Catherine did me a favor by making me believe that Alice was just dead, that Beth was dead, so that I could move on and not be stuck in this limbo. Because he is hopeless in finding Kate. He believes that he's extremely hopeless in finding Kate at this moment. So Alice ends up getting with Tatiana, and they're headed to Coriana to get Kate. Because as far as everybody in Sophia's circle knows, Alice made good on her deal. She killed Ocean, so she's gonna go collect Kate for that reward. And then, so Ryan is back at the Batcave, and she tells the team that during her scuffle with Alice, she put a tracker in her boot, and that they'll follow her to Coriana, save Kate, and get Ryan the Desert Rose. Holy shit, what a good episode. Such a good episode. Genuinely, probably my favorite episode of this season so far. It was really good. I mean, I liked the examination of Ryan's character. I loved that we got these flashbacks of her mom, or like these flashes of her mom, because Ryan's only really like spoken about her mom, and the only flashbacks that we've really seen of her mom have been like her death or immediately before her death. So I really appreciated kind of getting that look inside their relationship and kind of getting some context for what her relationship was like with Angelique. And then obviously seeing this kind of like shittier side of Angelique, during this episode. And I think that maybe even opened Ryan's eyes to see, because she's facing Angelique for the first time as not herself. So Angelique can't put up that front of like, oh my God, Ryan, my baby, like that kind of like, that front that she puts on. I mean, we saw it very well at the gala and all of that. So it was interesting to get an Angelique, a look into her where it's not Ryan that she's with, it's Batwoman, and she doesn't trust Batwoman, and she doesn't like Batwoman, and she's gonna kick her off the balcony, So I thought that was really good. And obviously, I mean, I have ranted and raved about this Alice storyline, and I will continue to do so. And I'm so excited because, I mean, like I said, this is the beginning of Alice redemption. I am planting the seed right now, and I will see it harvest. It's Alice redemption. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Because, I mean, at this point, she can either decide, which, again, listen, she can either decide to cast her humanity aside of her own free will, or to try and search for humanity again of her own free will. So there's two roads that she can go down, but at this point, we've already kind of seen that storyline where she kind of like casts aside her humanity after Kate betrayed her, because we saw her get so much more intense, and after she killed Mouse, that was definitely a turning point for Alice. So I really don't see us going down that road again. I mean, maybe we do because it's so early in the series, but I think that we're on the road to Alice redemption, and I could see a morally ambiguous and definitely anti-hero Alice possibly in season 3. I think that would not be too early to see that kind of arc and that kind of change for Alice, especially because once she finds Kate, which in the promo for the next episode we saw her presumably finding Kate. And so once she finds Kate, what is her purpose? What is her purpose in life? She's going to have to figure out her purpose and figure out exactly what she wants to do, because what is the point of all of it? If once Kate's dead, or if she, makes up with Kate or whatever, like there's a lot of soul searching that she has to do. So I don't really see this storyline going any other way, especially because Red Alice she was an anti-hero in the comics. She had a turning point. She had a redemption arc. And honestly, I think that her and Ryan, I mean, I've said this since the summer when I was like preemptively shipping them, but I do think that her and Ryan could potentially like work through stuff. I mean, hey, if Ryan knew that it really wasn't Alice's fault, and I mean, Alice didn't kill her mom with her bare hands, like, I don't know. I think that there could be a lot of interesting developments that happen. And I mean, maybe even Sophie ends up helping Alice in that way. I don't know. I'm really intrigued though. I mean, I like villain Alice, but I'm so ready for her to have this redemption arc and to become an anti-hero. I'm so ready for it, and I'm really excited for it. And also, guys, I did some digging. I did a little Instagram snooping. And recently, like within the past week or two, the entire Batwoman cast have followed Wallace Day on Instagram, and she has followed them back within the past week or two. And if that doesn't mean Wallace Day, Kate Kane recast, I don't know what does. Listen, I'm not trying to get anybody's hopes up. I mean, my hopes are already sky high. They're in the roof. They're beyond. They're in outer space. If she doesn't show up as Kate Kane, I'm throwing myself out a window. That's the bottom line. That's how convinced I am. But anyway, I mean, like I said, I'm not trying to get anybody's hopes up, but holy shit. Like, I mean, it was it's the timing of it all, you know, like, because as the promo kind of suggests, I mean, we're meeting Kate next week. We're getting Kate back next week. I mean, Alice is seeing Kate next week. I don't see them dragging this out for much longer. So I am so excited. I'm so interested. I'm so intrigued. I'm so ready. I mean, Wallace Day is Kate Kane. It's happening. I think it's fair to say that it's happening. I think it's pretty fair to say that. Having a reconstructed face, obviously, but which is kind of funny because Ruby Rose just did an interview where she was like, yeah, maybe I'd go back as Kate Kane. Little does she know that they fully recast Kate Kane. It's what she deserves. And they wouldn't want her back anyway. Anyway, so yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. This episode was really fun to record. Obviously, I'm sorry about the little ramble in the beginning, but I just want to let everybody know about my new schedule, about what's going to happen, kind of the future of the podcast. I mean, I don't know beyond Supergirl season 6 exactly what's going to happen. Probably maybe just continue on with Batwoman stuff, talk about obviously other things that I want to talk about too, but like as of right now, it's going to be Supergirl episodes going up on Fridays. I post at 10:30 on YouTube, but like normally by midnight on Friday I've got the episode up on other platforms, Apple Music, Spotify, or not Apple Music, Apple Podcasts. And then, yeah, so that'll start in 2 weeks. And like I said, Batwoman recaps will be rolled into those episodes. It'll be about like 15 minutes in the beginning. I just kind of like write down like my big main thoughts. I don't really, obviously these are more detailed. But if you go back and listen to some of my older, season 5 Supergirl recaps, I have the beginning, like, little Batwoman parts of each episode, so that's kind of what's gonna happen. I'm just gonna talk about, like, the main points, things I liked, things I didn't like, big surprises, you know, stuff like that. So, yeah, so I will see you guys next week for sure. Don't know what it's gonna be, probably Batwoman, especially if Wallace Day shows up as Kate Kane. I am definitely talking about that episode. And then Supergirl. Next week I'll upload on Wednesday just because, but then the new schedule will kick in on, what day is that? What day of the week is that? I mean, it's Friday, but it'll be the 2nd, April 2nd. I will upload my first Supergirl recap. Hope you're excited. I know I am. And yeah, so anyway, thank you so much for listening. And I will see you guys. Well, you can rate, like, subscribe, do all the things, share, comment. Let me know what you think. Did you like this episode of Batwoman? Are you excited for Supergirl? What do you think of the episode titles? Do you think Wallace Day is gonna show up next week? Like, let me know everything, all your thoughts. You can tweet me at Televised Pod. And yeah, so I will see you guys next week. Bye.